Starting a business requires a lot of heavy lifting. This is only 10 pounds. What's going on, everyone? Josh is the name, Magnitude is the channel, and let's talk money. What does it mean to start a business? Several images come to mind. When many of us think of a business owner, we think of someone who's free. Someone who can do what they want, when they want, and how they want. To some, when we think of a new business owner, we think of someone who lives off of cereal and ramen, working on his breakthrough business idea in the comforts of his garage or his unfinished basement. Others may think of a young person with a ton of drive and skill, willing to take big risks in order to receive big rewards. All of these might be a part of being a business owner, but none of these are the full picture. Starting up a new business is extremely time intensive. Alright, this is the 10th episode of Magnitude Money, and I thought I would change up the format a little bit, and instead of doing one of my normal financial tips videos, I had to give you guys some background into one of the most pivotal experiences in my career. Once upon a time, I was bored at my office job. I was working in a cubicle from 9 to 5, at a company that, while it was doing great for the first year and a half I worked there, got bought out and was slowly being run into the ground. I toughed it out for a while, I continued to do my job, I continued to show up, but over the years it continued to feel less and less fulfilling. I started to crave something more. Maybe it was the creative in me, but I really wanted to build something. And I wanted freedom. So I ran through my skill sets in my mind, and I remembered back in high school I had taken a graphic design class that also covered screen printing. I love the idea of being able to express myself with my own artwork on my own graphic tees that I had designed myself. I quickly got online and started pricing out screen printing presses, and I found out that I could get a complete starter kit with a 4-screen screen printer for about $1,000. My next paycheck would cover that, so I put it on the credit card, and the next thing I knew, it was showing up at my house. All I would have to do is bust out my handyman skills and build a stand for it. Some quick internet research and a trip to Home Depot, and I was ready for business. I had started a screen printing company. I didn't quit my job and go all in right away. I started by asking some friends who I knew ran some businesses on the side if they needed some branded apparel. I got a couple of them to make some orders, and I spent a few late nights relearning how to screen print. By the way, YouTube was awesome for relearning this skill. My first client even paid for the blank t-shirts up front, so I didn't even have to be out of pocket on materials for my first order. With my new side business, I was now able to make some extra money without having to answer to a boss. To make this extra money, I didn't have to show up to an office at the same time every day, and eventually I could grow this into a full-time gig. So that's what I did. After 6 months of working full-time and spending late nights after hours grinding away printing t-shirts, I was finally at the point where I was getting more orders than I had time to fulfill. From a time perspective alone, it was time to make the jump. I quit my job. That was probably the scariest leap I've ever taken in my life, and at this point I thought that I had made it. I was now officially an entrepreneur. I started thinking that anyone who was working a day job was a sucker. They were just making more money for the people that they were working for, and they were enslaved by the man. I was now free to create my own schedule. I could work whatever hours I wanted to. If I wanted to take a day off, I could take it. Life was now going to be easy. That's what my friends thought, and that's what I thought. But they were wrong, and I was wrong. You see, there's a reason why most startups fail. Starting a new business is hard work. There's a lot of heavy lifting, and it's not for the faint of heart. I remember that when I did have time to hang out with my friends, they would always think that I could stay out as long as I wanted because I was my own boss. I didn't have to answer to anybody. I could sleep in as much as I wanted. But what they didn't understand was that while I was my own boss, I still had deadlines to meet. Oftentimes, people needed their orders faster than my 2-week turnaround time. I didn't have the capital to keep blank shirt inventory on hand, so I'd have to order the blank shirts when an order for my services came in. Then I would wait for them to show up and then print the shirts. The system worked pretty great for my regular timing. I would order the blank t-shirts, then I would work on the graphic design portion, get that approved. Once that was approved, I would create the screens, and usually by the time I got to this point, the blank shirts would arrive and I would just get right to printing. It usually took a few days, depending on the size of the order, to manually print all of the t-shirts. But when rush orders came, I often had to print t-shirts as soon as the blank shirts arrived. I spent many regular late nights, think working till 2 a.m., fulfilling on orders. You see, what I had effectively done was I had traded one boss for several bosses. I had several clients who would regularly tell me what they needed and when they needed it, and it was soon. On top of that, there was a lot that I had to do to keep the business going. I played the roles of marketer, sales guy, accountant, screen printer, graphic designer, and delivery guy. It was a rough road. Despite all of the late nights and constantly working on either one part of the business or another, I eventually ended up having to close up shop. I was just on the verge of being able to afford renting some commercial space when my landlord, I was renting at the time, decided that he didn't want me to run my business out of his garage anymore. He wouldn't even let me re-sign my lease. This came completely out of left field for me because there had been zero discussions about it being a problem that I was running my business out of the house. It would have been nice to have had that discussion before my contract expired. So that was a big problem for me, and on top of that, I was having some major issues with my truck at the time. You know, the truck that I said earlier that I had sold in a previous video. That lined up perfectly with a couple of slow weeks in sales, and I was out of commission. I had to close up shop. I had failed. I learned a lot about running a business through this experience. I learned that if you're not careful, you could end up creating a job for yourself rather than create a business for you to run. If I could have a do-over on the screen printing business, fun fact, it was actually called Magnitude Promos, a little history on why the channel is named what it is, I would do things a little bit differently. The first person that I would have hired would have been a really good sales guy. Now, I did get to the point in this business where I did have a couple of sales guys that were working with me. They worked completely off of commission. That worked great for offloading that piece, but the second person that I did not hire was an operator or a technician, someone that could handle the day-to-day fulfillment of the business. You see, I got stuck working in the business, so I never got to the point where I was working on the business. Hiring someone to man the operations would have freed up my time to start working on things that would have helped the business grow, like building my marketing channels. It would have freed up my time to be able to get out and make connections, which could have led to more clients or allowed me to just learn new things about business in general. Even though my business technically failed, I don't actually consider it a failure. Nelson Mandela famously said, "I never lose, I either win or learn." I learned a lot working for myself. It was a year and a half of experience that could never be taught in schools. I learned how to market my business, I learned how to be a salesman, I learned what it meant to be in operations, and I even learned how to start leveraging my network for growth. But the most important thing that I learned is that no one can be a one-man show, at least not forever. You not only have to build your business, but you also have to build your team. A couple of more key players and I could have grown bigger, I could have grown faster, and we would have been able to tough out the rough road that we would have had to take in order to make it through some rough times. One day I might even start the screen printing business back up now that I have a realistic expectation of what it means to run and own a business. So what do you think? Have you ever dreamed of starting your own business? What are some of your business ideas? Let me know in the comments below. As always, if you made it this far in the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton. I hope that this video gives you a glimpse of what it's like to start a new business, and I hope that you can avoid some of the mistakes that I made. It was a pretty rash decision for me to leave my full-time job and go all in on my business. A safe way to do this would have been to build up some passive income streams that I could have leaned on while I was getting this thing off the ground. And speaking of passive income streams, an easy way to get started on that is to invest in dividend-yielding stocks. If you'd like 2 free stocks, one of which can be valued up to $1,000, there's a link below to Webull. All you have to do is fund your account with $100 and those 2 stocks are yours. You can go ahead and sell them and invest in a different stock if you don't like the ones that you get. I've also got a link to M1 Finance below. That's my favorite platform for stock investing. So make sure you check that one out and I will talk to you next time. Peace.